Hi, Barbara. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Arianne. Nice to meet you too. This is a huge honor for me. I'm a huge fan of your work.
Oh, you're so nice. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
This movie, Don't Worry, Darling, amazing, amazing. I mean, the entire movie, it's amazing, but the costume design, I was like, I need everything that they're wearing in this movie.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. That's a big compliment.
Well, my first question is like, how was it working with Olivia? Like when you first had the first talk, did she have like a clear idea of what she wanted the characters to wear, or was it like a conversation between the two of you? How was the process?
Yes, well, Olivia reached out to me. It was at the end of when I was working on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2019. They sent me the script, and I was super excited because I had seen Booksmart. I'm a big fan of Olivia's work as an actress. And then I saw Booksmart and I loved Booksmart. I thought it was so clever and so great and so surprising. It's really exciting to see a director who is an actor. I think the best directors are directors that have either taken acting classes or are actors, because they really understand character development and storytelling, and they have absorbed so many filmmaking skills being on a set. I was very intrigued, and then I read the script and I was so surprised that this would be her follow-up to Booksmart. So I was really excited, and knowing Olivia is an activist, and I really admire her feminism and her activism, and I could see reading the script that she authentically is that person, because there are those themes in the script. And then after I read the script and I said yes, I'd love to meet her, they sent me her mood board, and it is like kind of like a pitch deck of visuals of how she visually that she put together, of how she visually saw the film. And I knew when I saw the mood board document, that I was so excited, because her level of aesthetic, the photographs and the writing in the mood board was very, very sophisticated. Her aesthetics are really on a high level. And I recognized a lot of beautiful photography. I love photography. I've always been inspired by photography. So she had like Slim Aarons, who is a really amazing photographer from the 50s and 60s. And she had these architectural mid-century photographers that were really incredible. And also like an artist, Alex Prager, who is a contemporary artist who creates these kind of cinematic tableaus. So I was really excited. And then we met. It was like, I always say, kind of like our first date, right? Like it's either an awkward silence or an easy conversation. I think like we sat for 2 hours talking nonstop, and I was like so excited to work with her. I also knew that for her, it was going to be a really big job, because not only would she be directing, she was going to be acting. So my job as her costume designer is not only to be her collaborator and help her expedite her vision and to bring something, but also to be her support as an actor and to help her in every way that I could. And I couldn't wait to be her partner in all of it. And she also hired Maddie Labatique, the cinematographer, who I have wanted to work with for a really long time. He's so talented. I really love cinematography, like photography. It's always really important to me, and really says a lot about the sensibility of how the film will look. And Katie Byron, the production designer who she worked with on Booksmart, was going to be on it. So it's really, really exciting. Of course, we had to wait because we were supposed to start shooting, and then COVID hit. And then I honestly didn't know if we were going to be able to make the film, because, when COVID hit everyone, we didn't know what was happening from one day to another. So when I got the news that we were actually going to start shooting and I could start prepping, which was in August 2020, I was super excited.
And thank God it was made, because it's amazing. And what you were saying about her activism and her feminism, I could truly see it in the movie, because it has a lot of female gaze. And as a woman, I enjoyed it very much. And I think that, you know, the plot twist and everything just completely makes sense. Like in a very pessimistic way, it makes sense that I think it could actually happen in some twisted mind. Talking about another incredible woman that works in the film, Florence, her work is amazing. And her character, Alice, while I was watching the movie, I couldn't stop thinking about her dresses because they changed throughout the movie and the colors changed throughout the movie. And I wanted to ask you about that. How was the color choosing for each point in the plot, how it changed throughout the movie?
Yes, well, for me, you know, because the movie takes place in mid-century and there's so much mid-century design, I always start with color and silhouette, just in terms of designing the character arc and the story arc. So I was really excited to tell this story because I knew I would have the opportunity to have cinematic license because Victory and the story is fictional. I've done other films set in the 60s, like Walk the Line about Johnny Cash, where it's biographical and it's based on something that happened that's real. So it was very exciting. And I really looked at this character arc of Alice as an audience member. We're experiencing Victory in real time with Alice as we are trying to figure out what's going on because it seems quite off. You know, costumes really not only help develop character, but they help underscore mood and tone. So I knew that using color and print was really going to help create a certain tone and mood and energy in the film. And so I was able to really lean into that with Olivia in terms of the overall character design of Alice. And it was really thrilling. I used a lot of vintage fabric from the 50s and 60s, and we made a lot of her dresses. She wears a few vintage things here and there. So it was really fun to kind of craft this character arc and this development as not only Alice progresses in the film, but as the audience progresses with Alice through kind of understanding what's happening in Victory.
And I need to ask you about a specific piece of clothing that caught my eye while I was watching the movie, and it's the apron that she wears.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that is my favorite one in the movie, because when I think about the 1950s, of course, I think about an apron in a woman because it all revolves around the woman waiting for the man until he comes home and she greets him. So I wanted to know, how was the process of selecting that specific apron and why was that the chosen one?
Yeah, it was actually, it's funny, it seemed like a very simple piece of costume and it actually held a lot of meaning. So I love that you liked it as well. I spent a lot of time thinking about that apron, too much time, and what the apron would be. I looked at so many aprons from the 50s and 60s. And in the end, I ended up designing an apron that I felt I couldn't find. The idea of an apron that also would say something about the time period and have an energy to it. So the apron is quite happy and yellow, and it has like a ruffle on it. Jack wears the apron at one point when he's cooking dinner. So I knew I wanted it to have a very feminine kind of presentational aspect. And then so when Jack puts it on, there's quite a love story between Jack and Alice, and that is very real and very sweet. So I love that moment when he's cooking her dinner and he puts the apron on. So that was a fun piece of costume to develop.
And talking about Jack, I know that you work again with Jack Kasbarian, that you worked in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with the suits of Leo DiCaprio. And I wanted to ask you about hairstyle suits, Jack's suits. When you think about Jack, it's kind of like this character that is charming in every way, because 90% of the movie you're like, oh my God, he's amazing. I want him to be my husband too. And then he goes in, he has another completely face. So I wanted to know, how was the creation of those suits?
Well, like you said, the film, the Victory is constructed as this utopian perfect world. And the women are really constructed in the way of a male fantasy through the male gaze. They're like, They look glamorous when they're doing housework, they're at the country club, they're shopping. This is really an antiquated vision of what women's roles were societally just a couple generations ago. It may seem crazy to us, but really it's not that far. And there are cultures on this planet that still have these expectations of women. And in the same idealized way, the men are dressed in a way that is this kind of bro culture, kind of like Rat Pack idealism. When you think of the way that men dressed like Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin, these super cool guys. And it's kind of like, I always say, like a bro culture. They're like guys that hang out together. So there is this idealized version of themselves. That's why it's good to see the movie twice, because you can go back the second time knowing kind of the outcome of the movie. So the costumes really present, and the hair and makeup, a veneer or a facade for something that it lies beneath. And while our story is fiction, a lot can be said just kind of historically about gender dressing. We live in a time right now where we're blurring the lines, and thank God that we have the ability to allow people to express themselves as they will. But during this time, there were certain societal expectations. And I think right now we're in a place generationally, maybe with your generation, where we're in the third wave of feminism, and we're questioning authority. We're questioning these traditional archetypes and gender dressing. And so hopefully the film will provoke conversation. It's like our version of Handmaid's Tale. It is apocalyptic in a way, and yet there is a lot of reality that's reflected in this patriarchal society that right now we are struggling with, especially here in America, where we have Roe versus Wade that's been overturned, and these kind of questions about, control, government control, gender expectations and stuff. So I think there are themes in this film that are incredibly relevant, even more relevant than when we were making the film in 2020.
I completely agree with you. And one last question that it has to be like with your general career is that what director that you haven't worked with would you die to work with?
Oh, wow. I mean, there are so many. There's so many directors I'd like to work with. I'm working right now on the follow-up to The Joker, and I'm working with Todd Phillips, and I love his work. So I'm really excited right now about that movie. But there are so many directors. There are a lot of women directors that I would like to work with. I loved working with Olivia. I've had the good fortune to work with a couple women directors before, and I'm hoping more and more. So yeah, too many to name.
Yeah, I would love to see you with Greta Gerwig personally.
Oh, I'd love to work with Greta Gerwig.
That is my dream duo.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think she's quite loyal to her costume designer, a really amazing costume designer, Jacqueline Duran.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, who's really amazing. I love that you know so much about costume design.
Thank you. It's everything. Thank you so much for your time, Arianne. This has been a
pleasure.
huge pleasure for me.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Yeah, great question.
Oh, thank you.
And hello to Argentina.
Oh, come anytime.
I have it. Focus right here.
Have a little drink.
Yeah, I will. Now, baby, don't cast my You and me.
Always. You and me.
Who laughs like you?